It's very important to bring everybody in from the beginning and not to go out with a solution necessarily. Council shouldn't be problem solvers, in my view. We should be a participant in a process that helps solve problems. But that could be led by the community, that could be led by the private sector or developers or whatever it might be. And again, it's about taking that time in the initial stages to develop a relationship. Often what we will do is we'll have, say, like a planning project, and the first contact we have with that particular community is, here's the planning project. We do a consultation. We take that data and we do something with it. Here's your 3 designs. Which one of these designs do you like the best? But it's kind of a case of, like, here's 3 different kinds of tomatoes. But I don't like tomatoes because they taste too green. I want something different, but I've got no way to influence that decision-making process. But if you've got that, and it's like, it is really front-loading a lot of work in the initial stages, but it pays off later on. Develop those relationships, build the understanding of the kind of value proposition of each of your stakeholders. Provide opportunities for them to, meet and build their own relationships with each other. So you've got people in the community mingling with, developers and council and elected members and politicians and so on. And that worked really well, say, in the Highness Street West in Adelaide, where it's kind of like a retail strip, but there's a lot of development going on. The university's bought a lot of land and they're going to build a lot of new buildings. And that's one of our pilot areas. So we've got this loose goal of trying to create a vision for the area. And it really is similar to what I was doing on Melbourne Street. Be present, like, shut up and listen. Try and understand what's going on without applying bias to it, and do that for each of the people that you're dealing with. And that's community, the businesses, the developers, the university, various, council itself is pretty segregated and siloed. There's a lot of stuff you do internally. And over time, we begin to build our understanding of these groups, and they understand each other. And, it kind of emerges in general that they love their area in different ways. And so they've got different value propositions, but the end goal is often quite similar. And so it's a lot easier to work out what each different group has the capacity to do to affect that change in the long term. Again, in terms of returning agency to the communities, is they tell us how they want to be, how they want to work with us. So one example from Adelaide was, it got to a point where the retailers on Melbourne Street were becoming a little bit more organised, and they had trouble meeting as a group because they're all small business owners. It's very hard for them to kind of get outside their business because they're families or individuals. And they just set up like a Facebook group. And that became it started out as like 6 people for one particular event, and then it grew to like 80 or 90 different traders on the street talking together, and where they previously didn't know each other, like building those relationships, even if it's only in that kind of online space. Local government tends to shy away from being involved in that kind of area because, I don't know, maybe they feel we're a bit of a target, which can be true in some senses and sometimes well-deserved. But I got involved in the group, so when things are popping up, there's ideas being thrown around, and I'm not adjudicating what's right or wrong. I'm saying, here's how I can help. Doing things like walking tours and workshops. We do that with our elected members. Quite often there's a bit of a barrier between the officer level and the elected members because they're not supposed to give us instruction, and sometimes that can be a bit difficult when you're kind of out and about. So that's a very distant relationship. We had the opportunity we could give them a call, say, do you want to come out in the street? We'll have a sit down, introduce you to people, talk about the story. You're building their understanding of the process as well. You're introducing them to, positive and excited people on the street where often they're only receiving complaints. And that was really great. It's a very simple communication tool that we used that flipped the elected members around from being a bit suspicious to being champions of, like, placemaking in that particular city.